Well, hello. Here we are for our Q&A, and welcome. We'll go ahead and start with Lisa Vincent. Julianne's girls seem really tall. How tall are they? See, Sydney's 5'5".
Say how old they are when you say.
Oh, Sydney's 14 and Maddie's 12.
Okay.
And Sydney is 5'5" and Maddie's 5'4", almost 5'4".
Okay.
So they're pretty close in size. And Julianne is my daughter that you don't see very much, the blonde one. Okay, what would you do as an active LDS member if one of your own declared they were LGBTQ? Would love prevail or religious beliefs? Love always prevails. You never stop loving them. And you just let them know that you do care, but they still have to obey the church rules.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
but that is a good question. But how do you not stop loving them? We do have some in our family, and boy, we just love them to death. Nothing changes in the love department. But that's a good question. Okay, do you want to read the next one,
Yeah.
James?
Curious. Does Action Lab, that's Jimmy Joe's YouTube channel, does Action Lab and his wife have opposite personalities? I've always wondered what his wife thinks of the stuff he comes up with.
Yeah, they do have opposite personalities. Usually couples are opposite.
Opposites attract, they say.
Opposites attract. Yeah, but she puts up with it, and she helps him along with it because she's a nurse. I mean, a PA, and
Physician's assistant.
And she helps out. And she does kind of wonder sometimes. She goes, "Oh, I don't know about that one."
But when she gets
James,
the check from YouTube, she said, "Well, I guess I can put up with this a little more longer."
It's funny because one time she had to take his blood, but she knew how to do it. And they were seeing if it would boil or something.
She was qualified to do it.
Yeah, and then when he put had his finger in a plant eater, he had to leave it in for like 20 minutes or something. And but they do have opposites, and she does put up with it. Sometimes she'll put her foot down and say, "No, you can't do that one," or but he does them. And
as a scientist, he researches really well before he actually does something.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing, and she knows what she's doing, and so they do help each other out a lot, and they do have a lot of fun together. Okay, Bonnie Barber. Judy looks like your mama. How old was she when she married your dad? And how did they meet? Good question. Yes, Judy does look like Mom a lot, and they kind of clashed a lot. When Judy was little, Mom would get after her a lot.
Well, her nickname was Trouble.
It was Trouble, and then she called her Double Trouble. So that was pretty fun. And how old was she when she married your dad? My mom had just graduated from school, so she has barely turned 18. And
it's like you, huh?
Yep. And Dad was 19. He was just a year older than her. And they met. It's fun how they met. My Uncle Herman, my dad's brother, had 2 dates. One night it was Glenna and Ruby. And he told my dad, he says, "Hey, can you take one of these girls? I've got 2 of them. So if you could take one, why don't you take Ruby and I'll take Glenna." And Glenna married Herman, and Ruby married Fred. But my dad, he took Mom out. I think it was a dance or some kind of a dance that they went to, and Mom just really loved his uniform. So she was attracted to him in his uniform.
Well, tell him what kind of uniform it was.
Air Force. And my dad said he felt sorry for Mom because she cried one time or something. They do have a cute little story, and but so that's a good question. Okay, do you want to read the next one?
Where are we?
Just Francine.
Francine. Please explain to me why every LDS Mormon couple seems so happy and total love with their spouse. Do you know any couples that have divorced?
Yeah, the reason you see a lot of happy LDS couples is because when they go to the temple and get sealed and get married,
I'll tell them what sealing means.
Forever, get married forever. When
they say married forever, that means not on this earth, but after this life they'll be together.
Mm-hmm. Yep, forever and ever and ever. My mom would always say, you got me forever.
No, she'd say forever.
Forever and ever. And so they when you go and get married in the temple, sealed, you make a covenant or a promise with God that you will take care of each other, and that you will stay faithful. We promise to do that, and that you will commit to each other, and it's a triangle. It's not just you and your spouse, it's you, your spouse, and God. So it's a triangle, and so you try harder. You don't give up so quickly, and you with the LDS, they don't drink, smoke, or and they stay faithful, and so that takes a lot of troubles out of a marriage, and so that
also there's a different perspective, like it's very common for couples to move in together just to see if it's going to work out, and we do not move in together because we're thinking, I want to be with this person for the life after this as well.
And statistically, 85% of couples that move in together and then get married, they don't make it. So it's not a good idea to do that. And so in general, LDS couples do stay together, but unfortunately there are those that don't make it, and the number,
the number is way small compared with the national average for marriages.
But it does happen. There are couples, LDS couples, that are unfaithful, that do drink, smoke, do drugs, or whatever, that don't follow the rules, and unfortunately that leads to divorce. But it is a lower number, and so I think that's why LDS couples do look happy, and because they're committed. It's a commitment, and they try harder, and they promised God that they would commit to each other and take care of each other, and when you go to the temple, you promise to do that too.
And if they're not faithful to their companion, they will get reprimanded by the church, and it takes a long time to, quote, come back to the church.
And reprimanding means they are actually excommunicated.
That means kicked out.
That means, but it is you can come back if you want to the church and get rebaptized, but it takes a long time because you need to, you don't break a promise with God. Yeah, it takes a good 4 or 5 years, and you can come back and get rebaptized and start fresh again. And the church takes that very serious because it is a commitment with God, and marriage is a very.
Another word for commitment is a covenant.
It's a covenant, yes, and God takes these covenants very, very serious. And I know in the world to be unfaithful isn't breaking any laws or anything, but in the church, in the LDS church, the covenant is with God, and when you break it, it's very serious. So, and it says it in the 10 Commandments also, to obey, but it's not in the world. They don't take it serious, but we do in our church, and because a promise or a covenant to marry each other is very serious, and you stay and you take care of things, you take care of each other, and that's how God wants it. But sometimes there does have to be a divorce if the other spouse in the
usually
covenant,
one of those three that Dr. Laura used to say.
Yeah.
The 3 A's: abuse,
addiction, and adultery.
Yeah, those
and
three.
though you can stay and fix those, but the other partner has to be willing. If they're not willing, it takes two to dance. And if they want out, there's not much you can do about it. And unfortunately, there are divorces in the church, but But in general, it's a higher number that stay together.
Yeah.
That's a really good question. Okay, Donna Conrad. I love those paintings of Jesus.
Which one would they be?
Oh, I know which one she's talking about. When I went to the church welfare, there was a painting of Jesus and his disciples, and it was just really a really good painting. There was a couple of others there in the church welfare building, and it says, does your temple reproduce those smaller format for members to hang in their homes? And there were some really great pictures in the temple too. And she might be talking about
actually
those.
Most of those pictures, if you go to Google and do a search on LDS space Jesus space and then what's on it, most of those are reproduced there. You can get a copy of it.
You can get copies of them. You can go to the distribution center or DeseretBook.com.
Well, they don't live in Utah and they don't have that.
Distributions. Deseret Book sells them, or Siegel Book.
Well, that's in Salt Lake. They don't have.
Well, you get them online.
Yep, it's true.
Yeah, .com. Yeah, .com. And they're really good pictures. So they do reproduce those, which is really nice. Okay, a good question. Kelly Heddles.
Yep. What does look for the rose mean? I must have missed when you explained that.
I'm glad you asked that. I wanted to have a theme for our
coming year
vlog. Yeah. And there was a story of in 1982 there was a big flood here in Utah, and they were channeling the water down the streets of Salt Lake, and a lady was telling about how she drove up to Salt Lake to see the destruction, see the water being channeled down the main street of Salt Lake, and it was just muddy and a mess, and she was riding with her daughter in the car, and she goes, oh, she had her head down and she was looking and thought, oh, this is such a mess, look at the mud, look at the destruction and everything. Her little girl reached down and lifted her chin up and said, Mom, you're going to miss the roses. And the mother, she goes, oh, I have to remember to lift my head up and look for the rose. And so I thought,
look for the good. Look for the good,
yeah. So I thought that'll be a good theme. Look for the rose. And roses have thorns, and to protect the beauty of the roses. And our lives have thorns, and we have to remember we do have thorns, but to remember to look for the rose, to lift your eyes up and look around and see what in your life is beautiful, and don't just sit and keep your head down and look at the mud and the destruction and how horrible. Lift your eyes up and look for the rose.
Look for the silver lining in the cloud.
Yeah, that's right. And so that's what I mean by look for the rose. And I went singing with my sister today, and there's a song that we sing, love is a rose, but you better not pick it. It only grows when it's on the vine. A handful of thorns, and you've missed it. Lose your love when you say the word mine, something like that. And we just have to remember that there is a rose in your life, and to look for it every day. Before you go to bed at night, you say, what was my rose today? I know there were thorns. We all know the thorns because they hurt. But what was your rose? And so that's what I mean by look for the rose.
And that rose can be a person you hardly know that looks at you with love and smiles.
Yeah. There's and just if you remember to look for the rose, your life will go a lot better. You'll have a life of roses instead of a life of thorns. And the thorns are there. And we need manure for the roses to grow, but we need manure for us to grow. But we don't have to dwell on it.
We need problems to help us
grow. But we don't need to sit and dwell on it. That's just how life is. And we all love the lessons we learned from life, but none of us want to go through it. But
we don't want to go through the problems where we learned.
But none of us would ever give up what we learned from it. But we just don't want to go through the problems. But that's how you learn. It's a very good question. Okay, should we do one more?
there's one that's related to that, vaguely related. Like people in various parts of their lives, there's other people that want to be their friends, but they don't have good values, or they're not good people, but they want to hang out with you. So related to what the robes thing is remember that if you walk through mud, you're going to get some on you.
Yeah. And me being a farm girl, I believe you can walk through the field and not step in the manure. You don't have to make life harder than it is. There is manure out there, but to get to the other side of that field, walk through it, but you don't have to sit and dance in the manure. and you don't notice that you smell till you step out of the manure. Don't make your life harder than it needs to be. Of course there's horribleness out there, but you don't have to dance in it.
You have to know when to walk away.
Yeah. Okay. Kathy Conley, by the way, has Doug lost weight? That's my son-in-law, Rochelle's husband, and yes, he's lost like 50 pounds.
Yeah.
And you're all curious how he did it. All he did, the doctor told him he was pre-diabetic and to lose some weight. And I didn't think he needed to lose weight because he's like 6'5", so you can hide a lot of weight in that height. But he just decided, I'm not going to eat any sweets. That's all he did. He still eats his meals, but he says, I'm just not...
No, he also eats less. He just...
Yeah. And he says, I'll just cut out the sweets, and I'm not going to eat the ice creams, the cookies, the cakes, the candies, and that's all he did. And the weight just started coming off. It's just amazing.
At our Sunday dinner, we always have sweets and ice cream. And
I always have the candy jar and the popsicles and the ice creams.
Mostly for the kids, but...
the adults love it too. And he bypasses all of that, so he's just doing a really good job. Let's see. Should we have time for one more? I think so.
Yeah.
Okay, Treva Bolton. Those look awesome. Thank you for the recipe. This is the chocolate slab ice cream sandwiches. I'll put a link to that above. It says, do you spray with Pam before you roast the pecans? No, I didn't, but you can, but they don't really stick. You just put them in the oven for about 8 minutes and roast those pecans.
What kind of a tray do you put them on?
I just put them on the cookie sheet.
So you don't have to pre-spray it.
No, those were really good.
There's no liquid to melt on it.
Yeah, and the chocolate chips have wax in them. And we only got one more here. Let's finish off with this last one. Idea. I'm here to dance. In your church, I notice people take turns speaking each week. Is that a requirement?
And how did she know that?
I don't know. Yes, we do take turns. The bishop, that means he's over our ward, and that means that we're over a certain area. Usually it's about 800 families, 800 homes.
But in general, though, we have a prophet and 12 apostles that are direct the church, but the members, the individual, like in a Catholic church, they call them a parish, well, we call it a ward. Individual ones, we have a lay ministry, which means we govern ourselves with the right teachings. And we have it very organized into little jobs for everybody, leading the music, and in one of our meetings, like teaching in Sunday school, giving lessons.
And no one's paid. And we, if the bishop asks you to speak, of course you're going to speak. We've lived here 43 years, 44, and I've only been asked to speak once. And they asked us to sing once with our sisters.
He might be trying to tell you something, whatever you said.
Yeah, usually, like when I got asked to be Young Women's President, then I spoke.
Tell me what Young Women's President
that
means.
you're over the ages,
girls,
the girls that are ages 12 to 18. And we do activities once a week. And we teach lessons on Sundays and then do an activity on Wednesday. Once a week, and then once a month we meet with the boys and do some kind of activity, like go to the corn maze, or do some kind of service project, or some scavenger hunt, or a barbecue, whatever. You come up with different activities to do with the theme, which is service or charity,
But along with the activities, there's always a lesson about how to become a better person.
Oh, yeah.
And
yeah, they have to do with the church. You don't just go and play. But then I was asked to speak then. And have you ever spoken in church?
Yeah. In the early years.
In the early years. I think when you were elders quorum
No,
president.
every time our kids got called on missions, I
Oh
spoke.
Yeah, that's right.
And when they came home from missions, when they came
yeah.
home from the missions.
Yeah, you get to say a few words and stuff. Or you'll ask someone to, but it's usually just people in your neighborhood or parish, whatever you call it. But that's a good question. And it's all volunteer work. The only time you get paid is if it's a church job, like your sister Bonnie worked in the church office building where they
helping keep records.
Helping keep the records. And that was her 8-hour job every day.
Well, it was a regular non-church job.
Yeah.
But you had to be a church member to
you had to be a church member to do that. And so there are church jobs where you do get paid, but in
general, at the Welfare Center, that's volunteer to create or gather food together and send it to countries or to people right locally that need help.
Yeah, I did a video when I went out to the church welfare and we did spaghetti sauce, and I showed a little bit of video of that and stuff. And
actually, at one time, one of the presidents of our country, I don't know which one it was, saw our welfare system, and he says,
Reagan.
We need to have our whole country run like this, where people take care of themselves.
Yeah, the church teaches us to lean more towards self-sufficiency, but there are times when you need help, and don't be ashamed or afraid to ask. But the church doesn't allow you to stay on for very long, maybe a couple of months till you get back on your feet, and then you're also asked to go down and help, like in the bishop's storehouse. You're asked to go down and help stock the shelves, or work to get the boxes unloaded. And
the people have access to that. They meet with our local bishop. Our bishop is like the person that's over the whole ward or parish, the whole ward, and he decides what your needs are, and if your family members are trying to help you also, they don't immediately jump to the church and say, we need something.
Yeah, but if you do need help, ask, and the church will help, because they're there to help. And it's fun to see what the church does do. They're always making quilts, and they've got boxes and boxes and boxes loaded up and ready to go all over the world to help in any kind of disaster. It's all ready to go. All right, well, we'll go ahead and close a couple of quotes. Do you want to get that paper?
I was looking at her because her
Was
thing,
my head littler?
It says 20 minutes, and we usually stop at 17.
I know. Okay, grab the quotes. We went over. We always go over.
Well,
we love your questions, so keep them coming. All right, we'll go ahead and close with a couple of quotes.
All of these are almost should be repeated. Laugh some more. Yeah. When was the last time you laughed?
One of our prophets, I think it's President Hinckley, he said, life is not just to be endured, it's also to be enjoyed.
Oh.
We don't have to just endure life.
Here's one that hasn't been said before. Take your work seriously, but not yourself at all. Don't take yourself seriously.
Yeah, do it. Work hard at your job, but don't be serious. So serious. That's a good one.
Don't take yourself serious.
Yeah. Every day, find time to be alone. Just so you can relax and just not be, because we're kind of in a high stress world right now. Make friends with godly people. That's a good idea.
But then you forgot to check this one off from last time. Remind yourself that you are not the general manager of the universe. Okay, why are you doing it that way?
Yeah, some people just start micromanaging everybody.
Everybody.
Oh my goodness, you gotta.
What, do you mix your peas with your vegetable, with your
in
corn?
church or at home or at work or in the grocery store.
You should be merging over.
Or in the car.
I micromanage you.
Yeah. Sometimes you get caught up in micromanaging. Just remember, you're not the manager of the world. And that'll take a lot of stress off you anyway. Well, that was a lot of fun. And make sure you keep the questions coming. And we really enjoy this time that we have together too.
You and me, or them and you?
Both. You and me and us, and get to answer the questions that you ask. And make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, make sure you... And you haven't subscribed yet, make sure you subscribe.
And you could thank the new people that are coming.
And thankful for the new ones.
Every month there's new people adding you on.
Yep. So I just really appreciate that. And anybody that's new out there, hello, and welcome. I always say, welcome to the fun side.
Oh, I like that expression.
Thank you, and good night, everybody.
Good night.